Welcome to DAX Machina, with your hosts, Naomi Finn, Steve Wildman Monrotis, and D.A. Roberts. Join us as we explore writing, books, authors, and all things horror. We will delve into the sightings, reports, encounters, and tales of monsters. We will also explore the writings of D.A. Roberts along with others in the horror genre. We will investigate the possibilities that monsters may not be safely locked away in the pages of books. They might just walk among us even now. Grab some popcorn and lock the doors. It's going to be a creepy journey. Welcome to DAX Machina.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to another edition of DAX Machina. Joining me tonight is my partner in crime, Naomi Finn, and Nick Valente from the North American Dogman Project Region 3 is joining us tonight, and I think we're going to have a pretty lively discussion. Hoping that you guys have a lot of questions that you want to ask tonight, because we are going to be digging into the mystery behind Bigfoot and giant skeletons that have been found all over the country. Naomi, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic. Is there room for me to throw an article into
Sure.
the picture?
Absolutely.
How are you tonight?
Live and kicking so far, but it's early.
Well, we can take care of that for you.
Nick, how are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. And you could say it's early for you because it's 9 o'clock where you are, but over here it's 10.
Well, we hate to keep you up past your bedtime.
No, that was 3 hours ago. Jeez.
Looks like we're getting a lot of comments out of the crowd tonight. Everybody saying hello, guys. Thank you guys for joining us. Certainly appreciate it. Johnny Half says, I'm 70 miles south of Bray Road. That would be a great place to go visit.
I was on Bray Road once. Not entirely by choice. I got lost and was really shocked to learn that the road I was lost on was Bray Road.
Did you get out of the car?
Yeah, before I knew I was on Bray Road.
For the doggy man?
I didn't get to see anything exciting that night. I know. But that's probably a good thing because my heart doesn't handle things like that very well.
I heard that Dogman is certified in mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Yeah.
So, saved you.
From what I understand, his breath would be enough to kill me. So.
To knock you out. Yep.
Yeah. No, I was completely lost and could not figure out where I was at. And so I stepped out of my car and spread my map out because this was a long time ago. And we still had paper maps back then. Children, that's a big thing that's hard to fold, but it has lots of lines on it and it tells you where you're at, and it looks just like GPS, except for it's limited to the size of the page. But anyway, and when I finally figured out where I was at, and I had just recently heard of Bray Road. I mean, it was something that was new to me over like the last year or so. I was like, I didn't even fold the map. I kind of did one of these wadding up things as I was running to get back in my car. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm going home. So.
One of those, well, would you look at the time kind of things.
Yeah. Did not mean to crash this party, guys.
I've had a few of those moments myself.
Yeah.
You suddenly realize where you're at and you're like, I need to be anywhere else right now.
I had to pull over to a payphone. Children, that was when phones were attached to the wall and you put money into it and you made calls. And I had to pull over to a payphone to call my brother to get directions home because I couldn't figure out how to get home.
Don't forget about those circular dials that you had to dial.
Oh, I know. You could tell if you were really good, you could tell that a number of people were calling by how long it took it to get all the way back around.
Oh, and would calling in to win stuff off the radio station sucked because you're trying to dial this as fast as you can.
Absolutely. I remember those days.
Northwood says, did you need a change of clothes when you found out where you were, Naomi?
Pretty much, yeah. I was pretty shook up. I was even more shook up that the only payphone I could find was way too close to that road. I wasn't on it.
Juanita
But-
asked if anybody remembers party lines. Well, that was the
Yes.
first phone
Oh,
we had
God.
when I was a kid. Oh,
I used to get in trouble at my great aunt's house in Arkansas because the phone would ring and I'd naturally pick it up. And I'd have it halfway to my ear and she'd scream, "That's not our ring." And I was like, "What do you mean not our ring?" She's like, "You only pick it up if it rings twice, pause, and once." Oh, okay. Whatever.
well, then you'd always hear that click of somebody picking up to listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Usually it's the nosy old lady that lived like the third farm down from ours, who had nothing better to do than listen in on conversations.
We also had at my great grandma's house, we had to pick up the phone and ask and I love this because her name was Sarah, which was so cool because it was like Andy Griffith. She picked up the phone and asked Sarah to make the connection.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
I never had to call switchboards, but I do remember a party line. That was in the early 70s.
Yeah, at my great grandma's house, it was still a switchboard.
Well, I guess we're all badly dating ourselves.
At my dad's mom's house, it was still an outhouse. Out behind the house,
My dad
down.
refused to buy a push button phone for the longest time. Just out and out refused. And we had one of those old black rotary phones that was made of metal. You could have beaten a hole in the wall with that phone and not damaged it.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
I remember.
Of Bray Road and everything. Like I showed you guys before, I wanted to show you guys a new canine patch for the North American Dogman Project.
That's awesome. I need to get one of those.
We stalked the wolf in the dead of night. And that's right there. It says the canine team.
Yeah, I need to have you. I need to see if I can get a hold of one of those. Those are nice.
Okay, what's going on here? Let's see.
Marlon Darcox the second says the black rotary phones were quite the offensive weapon. Yes, they would. You could take out an intruder with that thing.
My father-in-law still has a rotary phone in his house, and every time, and he's 95 years old, and he gets all of these obnoxious phone calls from insurance companies wanting to sell him insurance, and they won't sell it to over someone who's 80. So, it's always one of those rotary calls, this is so and so from whatever, and if you'd like to speak with someone about this, please press 1 now. He dials 1, nothing.
Good luck calling an automated teller or something.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
he doesn't get to do that. Well, he has the other phone in the living room, but he always is out in the kitchen, so he always answers the rotary phone. And he a lot of times he'll have to call somebody, and he'll, to connect with this, please press 1, and he's like, sorry, can't do that.
It's when you're trying to make the tone beep. You didn't take it.
Usually once he gets on the phone with somebody, then they ask him about the insurance. He always says, I'm 95, and then he gets click. Nobody will sell life insurance to someone who's 95 years old.
Good point.
They're being prejudiced.
Yeah, it's ageist. Talking about those old dinosaur phones, those out-of-date relics from the past is a great segue to lead us back into the conversation for the night. Talking about giant bones that have been unearthed around the country, and people who are the skeptics about Bigfoot or about any type of cryptid, they're always their response is, where are the bodies? Where are the bones? Well, we know Gigantopithecus existed, but the only fossils that have ever been found were a few teeth that were in part of a jawbone that were found in a Chinese apothecary back around the early 1900s. But we know for a fact that existed. And when you start dealing with other primates, very little of the fossil records have ever been found of primates, because the most primates, like gorillas and chimps, live in jungle environments, and they're just not really that conducive to making fossils. generally, if something dies in a jungle setting, it's pretty much devoured and scattered to the winds within a very short order of time. So primates, for the most part, don't lend themselves to being fossils. The ones they have found of early hominids were found in arid regions where fossils were far more likely to be preserved. In fact, most of the fossils that we're finding even today are being found in desert and extremely dry climates, like the Badlands of the Dakotas, and out in Utah, they're finding tons of fossils. But you just don't find them in heavily forested areas. It's just kind of the way it works, unfortunately. So bearing that in mind, we don't see as many Bigfoot sightings in the desert. Granted, there are some, but the bulk of Bigfoot sightings are in and around forested areas, because that seems to be where they not only congregate, but where they can hunt. So any fossil, any animal that dies in that area, it's going to be very difficult to find a fossil for it. Yet the existence of giant bones being found throughout the Americas and other countries dates back hundreds of years. And the problem is every time one of these giant skeletons is unearthed, it's turned over for study and it ends up in the hands of the Smithsonian, and then it vanishes. The Smithsonian even admitted to destroying a bunch of giant skeletons that were found.
Once it goes to the Smithsonian, I can guarantee you they're going to say, we never received it, which is some of the experience that the NADP has had over the last 12 years at least. I know I've sent stuff there. I know Jody Cook has sent stuff there. And they're like, what package? We don't know anything about it. Oh, yes, you should, because I have the USPS tracking number right here, and it says it was received by somebody at the front door. And they're like, nope, we don't have it. And over the years, other people that have sent evidence there of cryptids have had the same experience. So I would recommend not doing that. This day and age, with DNA being able to be traced by even local veterinarians, because I got the guy across the street from me with his dog, and I said, boy, you have a beautiful dog. I said, he looks like a mix of, of 3 different types of breeds. He goes, actually, he's a mix of 4. He goes, I had the DNA done on him. So, I mean, I think nowadays it's a little bit easier than going to the Smithsonian and have your sample, so-called lost or never received. I mean, that's just...
Got our first super chat of the night from William Bedard. Super chat says, "Yep, I trust the native stories, not our government's BS." You're well on to something there, sir. We had a question up here. I'm going to get back to it. Derek Buckle said, "Didn't the Smithsonian not start collecting until the late 1800s?" That's true, but once things were sent to the Smithsonian, it became like a black hole. Like Nick was saying, you send something to them, nothing ever comes of it. Mark Napier says, "I wish we could explain to Bigfoot the Smithsonian has their ancestors' bones, so it'd be like Night at the Museum to a new level." Oh, that's pretty funny. Chip Bowder says, "Anything that refutes evolution, the Smithsonian will deny." Absolutely. These giant bones don't fit their narrative. And when I started digging into this, I found something that I thought was very remarkable. Research has been done by a lot of scientists on these giant bones, and we know for a fact they've been found in caves. They were found in caves in Kentucky and Missouri, out in Lovelock Cave out in Nevada, and
Virginia. Yeah.
So I found a place that had been doing the research into where all these giant skeletons have been unearthed, and this is what I found. Giant skeletons have been unearthed in all of these places. And what's that?
Put up that one where the lost.
Oh yeah,
lost one to compare.
Okay. Now you notice where these large clusters are on this map, and this is where giant skeletons have been found. Well, if you put that next to the missing 411 map, they are very, very similar to the missing 411s in those in the large cave systems. That in and of itself lends huge credence to why these giant bones are being found. And I'm not saying every case that it's a Bigfoot skeleton, or some of them could be rare cases of gigantism, but in many places they were multiple skeletons found. It's a gigantism is rare in humans, so for you to find 8 to a dozen or more skeletons all in one place, it is not just remarkable. It's the chances of it being actual gigantism is almost impossible because it is so rare. One giant skeleton was unearthed in Ecuador and is right now on display in Switzerland. It was 7 meters tall. That's almost 25 feet.
Yikes!
And it is on display in Switzerland, in museums in Switzerland. And when that skeleton was found, multiple skeletons were found. They were found by a priest in Ecuador. And when he passed, the display items were given to museums. The only one still on displays in Switzerland. Derek Buckle says also believe they are found in Sardinia, the UK, and other countries. Yeah, they found them in Australia. They found them throughout Asia. Giant skeletons have been found all over, but they keep suppressing this. Now, we could get into a debate on this being Nephilim or aliens or whatever source you want to ascribe it to, and I'm not going to debate the religion behind it. I'm not going to debate the other sources. What I'm saying is they are being found, no matter their origin. They are being found, and we know this for a fact. In fact, there are books that were published on it, like this one here, The Ancient Giants Who Ruled America, The Missing Skeletons and the Great Smithsonian Cover-Up. It's not just one or two people that have noticed this. There's a growing attention in the scientific community. Now, some of these skeletons could easily be Bigfoot, but in the case of Lovelock Cave, the descriptions of the skeletons they found resembled almost in perfect detail the Giants of Kandahar story.
Exactly, yes.
Well, Naoma, what do you think of that?
I'm sorry. I just happened to think of Gog Magog.
Gog and Magog. Yeah, from the Bible.
No, actually, I was thinking of Gomagog. In the legend of the founding of Britain, written by Geoffrey of Monmouth, Gomagog was a giant of Albion who was slain by Corinius. I'm sorry, I'm so out of it, I can't pronounce these things. A member of the invading Trojan colonizers headed by Brutus. But that's part of the, that's not the page I want to be on. There you are. That's part of the what's the word I'm looking for? The foundation, not the founding, the myth, that's the lore of Britain, was that it was founded by a giant.
Yeah.
And I remember it because Albion and Albus Dumbledore. Okay, yeah. I told you that I was going to be fumbling a little bit tonight. And
No problem. You're fine.
I have a stutter. I started to say a natural stutter, but it actually occurred as a result of a head injury when I was 16. And I normally have it under control, but I'm hearing myself struggling with it. So if I start stuttering, just ignore me and just start talking.
You're doing fine, Naomi.
But Chip has some large skeletons in the family closet. I think we all have a few of those.
I have a
definitely.
I have a comment on the Kandahar giants. When I was over there in Bagram Air Force Base, I was speaking with three rangers who said they were out on patrol. This is going back about 5 years ago, but they were out on a patrol in the mountain regions over there in Kandahar. And they came across skeletons in the cave systems over there because they were systematically clearing cave systems. And DA, they actually measured some of them because they found a few that were lying down. And one of the biggest ones was 15 feet in length.
Wow.
So,
Well,
this wasn't just one skeleton. There were several, but this one in particular was lying flat down, and the other ones were like fetal type position. A lot of them were just, apart. But 15 feet, that's a, plus. That's a pretty large giant. And
that is a big boy.
The people over there, brought in fake bones and stuck them in the caves over there just to keep people away or anything. I don't think they would give a damn about much.
Well, they'd also have to know an incredible amount about anatomy to make it look real.
Exactly. And all three of these fellows, all three of these Rangers, these are U.S. Rangers, they were all telling me, they were just totally freaked out about it. That their CO, when they told their sergeant, he went to the captain, and their CO called them in, and they all had to give up their cell phones, and they had them wiped, because they were taking pictures of these things.
Wow.
Other people, I believe, did get out with some photos, but I haven't seen them pop up yet.
Well, we'll watch for them.
Finding these giant bones is all over the world.
Yeah. Anna Bone says, question, does Sasquatch have 2 rows of teeth? Do we know? I've heard accounts where people claim they had 2 rows of teeth, and some of these skeletons that have been unearthed had 2 rows of teeth. But having never been that close to check the orthodontia on a Sasquatch, I can't say for sure. And if I'm close enough to see the rows of teeth, I might be in a large amount of trouble.
From what I understand on some reports, just to kick in on that, 2 rows, the Genosquatch, 2 rows and sometimes 3 rows is what I've read reports. I've read literally thousands of reports on cryptids, and it has popped up many, many times. So
I have heard it quite a few times, but it's one of those things where, we'll never know until we have a specimen for sure. Flat Rock says an ancient Indian burial unearthed a 12-foot tall Goliath skeleton in Etowah County, Alabama in April 1886. It's funny you should talk about these old reports, because that's some of the best information we have on the existence of these, the existence of these skeletons. And when I was digging, I started finding dozens of old articles. Now that's a reprint of the Lovelock Cave story. Then we've got this one. That was in, I believe, in Australia.
Right, Victoria.
We've got this one. These are all newspaper articles that date back over 100 years.
That's 1911 on that one.
Yep. And I'm not just talking about 1 or 2 of these articles. And I'm not showing all the ones I found. I'm just showing you a list of a few that I decided to upload. And some of these were like published in the New York Times. This one was New York Times, May 4th, 1905. When giants roam the earth.
If I may kick in, one of the first reports of a giant skeleton that was found actually happened in 1774. A fellow named Jack Parsons, he was walking around a recently flooded Cheat River in West Virginia, and he noticed bones, protruding out of the ground. He pulled a femur out of the soil, DA, and it was 7 inches longer than his femur. He removed the rest of the bones and laid them out, and he estimates, this is in a newspaper report too, that the skeleton was a little bit over 8 feet tall. So, this is back in 1774. We're in West Virginia. So, we're really going back. And back in West Virginia also, around that, well, a little bit later than that, a lot of the coal mines up there, they found, when people were excavating the grounds in around that area, they found giant skeletons, 7.5, 8 feet tall. So, that's, this has been going on for years now. I think they had a town in West Virginia that they actually dubbed giant town because they had found so many of those, bones that were so large. But I mean, you come across a femur and the thing's 7 inches bigger than yours. And if you're close to 6 feet tall and this thing, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, very much so. There are numbers of books out there on this subject. The information is out there. I mean, honestly, I think that this has been covered up. And I think the Smithsonian's an active part of it, because this doesn't fit the current narrative. This doesn't fit the version of history or evolution that has been put through our school systems and put forth as the truth for more than decades and decades going back. But you can't dispute these because these have all been published. These are all accounts that have made newspaper accounts. They've shown up in multiple documentaries. There's numerous books on it, a lot of scientific debate. But yet every time the Smithsonian gets a hold of them, they just vanish. And then somebody tries to debunk the story like, oh, it just didn't happen. Much like the case up in Wisconsin, where they unearthed a 8-foot skeleton with 2 Native American skeletons buried beside it. And they were normal sized. And when the state archaeologists came in, they immediately ordered it buried and said it was a native site and it couldn't be disturbed anymore, and they can't dig there anymore, despite the fact that there were photographic evidence taken of an 8-foot skeleton in the grave with them. Possibly could have been a case of gigantism, or it could have been just another example of them covering up what they know is out there.
It's exactly that's why I love when I go to other states. I mean, I'm from New Jersey and I've done it here, but anytime I go to other states, I try to find little old libraries that they have, because they do have that microfilm and microfiche, the old newspapers on there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I try to pour through and do a lot of my cryptozoology type of research. And that's what I kind of preach to the people in the NADP, how to, when you're doing your research, use the library, and not only their books, but the newspapers. And I go to these libraries over there, and it's amazing that they do have, if you keep pouring through the newspaper reports, you will come up with these odd things. And a lot of the odd things that they have will be, plastered on the front page. When I just last saw you, and we were over in LBL on the way home, I went through West Virginia. Once again, I'm talking about there, but I did hit a library over there, and I did find out, I just recall this one now, because we're talking about giant bones. I recall that I did go through there, and besides Mothman stuff that I was looking for, which is more modern day, back in 1838, there were some amateur excavators, and they were going through I believe it's the Grave Creek Mound, and that's in Moundsville, West Virginia. They found a whole bunch of human skeletons, and most of them were 7 feet, but they did find a few that were 8 feet in length. Now this was in the newspaper reports, which is great. From back then, they had no problem publishing these things, and it's just sad that these days they won't put anything out. The government just suppresses it, or the editors just feel that, hey, this is going to make us seem like a bunch of crazy people. But not so. I mean, when you actually have these things and you have photographs of them, there it is. And it did show quite a few of the old photographs, from the 1800s in those papers, and it did show the bones.
Derek Buckle says, so what caused the Smithsonian to begin its collection process? Also, were there giants found near the Grand Canyon, near where the Egyptian artifacts were found? Yeah, there were giant skeletons found in a cave there. In fact, it's out of the area of the Grand Canyon where you are no longer allowed to go. They sealed that area off, and people are not allowed to go. They will run you out of there if they catch you. You can be arrested for being in those parts of the Grand Canyon. The Smithsonian became known as the foremost authority on antiquities and forensic anthropology. And so everybody would send skeletal finds to them to be cataloged, and anything that didn't fit the narrative they wanted or the current accepted scientific standard either got destroyed or just buried. So every time they've gotten a hold of giant skeletons, it was just completely suppressed.
I'll tell you, back in the early 1900s, the Smithsonian used to actually fund the search for certain cryptids, like the Yeti, something that everybody else knows about, the panda bear. They used to actually fund that, and people used to, put in bids to get the funding and go out there and do that. And then they stopped. They suddenly stopped for some odd reason in the 40s. But that was a big thing, looking for cryptids back then. I mean, I just think it was a better time in history for all of us.
I agree.
DA, did you catch that super chat?
Yes, I was just getting ready to put that up there.
Okay.
Chip Bowner super chat for $4.99. Chip, thank you very much, sir. Much appreciated. Lexington 73300 says, very hard to erase microfilm fiche archives, unlike digital. Exactly. They would literally have to physically go to every library in the country and request access to these microfiche documents and then make them vanish.
And I'll be honest with you, when I've been to a lot of them. If I tell you I've been to over 100 libraries out of the state of New Jersey, I've probably been to even more. And when I do request the newspapers from the 1800s or even further back if they have them, the filming itself is dusty. The cameras are all dusty and everything. I'm trying to put them through. I mean, nobody actually asked for these things. I'm kind of happy about it because, at least they're still there. And that means that nobody's trying to destroy them on us, trying to destroy history.
Yeah, that I worry because I know my husband and I recently learned that if you're looking for something, you can call the local library, tell them what you're looking for, and the information desk will go look it up for you. And that saves us a lot of traveling around. But I worry that there's someone and I know that this is my own paranoia, but I think, what if there's someone on the line listening and as soon as we ask for that, then they go there and get rid of it.
And take it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You gave them an idea. That's what it would be. You gave them the idea, and now they're going to go destroy it.
Yeah, my bad. I should have kept my mouth shut.
Creepers, Cryptid, and Paranormal Corner says, do you think Bigfoot might be descendants of these giants? I think in a lot of cases, these skeletons are Bigfoot. We get Bigfoot reported in sizes ranging from 6 feet all the way up to 15 feet in some cases. And I do believe they're definitely smart enough to bury their dead. So if they're finding these skeletons in caves that are these out of the way, hard to find caves, I think it's just credence to the whole Bigfoot and race of giants theory. I mean, it's lending absolute sources to this. If you look at these articles I put up that were talking about giant bones unearthed, those go hand in hand with all the articles that were written all the way back to the 1700s of cases of wild men attacking people, traveling on the roads, or giant apes attacking and killing farm animals. People didn't know what to call them back then. There was nobody knew what a Bigfoot was, so they were reported as wild men, or in one case I remember they referred to it as an ARP ape. Naoma found a case near Werewolf Springs where 2 guys riding in a buggy, a man and his servant, were attacked by a humanoid wolf, and they dove off of the buggy and ran in opposite directions, and one of them was killed. These accounts date back in these newspaper articles dating back hundreds of years. That's why I believe there's so much credibility to these stories. I think the evidence is overwhelming of the existence of these creatures, and the fact that they have gone to such great lengths to suppress this information and to bury this information is telling us that they have an agenda. There's a reason they don't want us to know. Got another super chat. William Bedard says, what island story had gold equipment move, large tracks found, and really no access now, even drones? Was it Samoa? Really interesting topic, guys. I've actually heard about something like that on Samoa, and I think it was Saipan. where they found stuff like that. And in Ecuador, they found not only they found the giant skeletons, but they found pieces of armor that were made to fit a being of that proportion. In fact, one of the pictures I saw, I should have copied the picture and saved it, but I was concentrating on grabbing magazine article. Newspaper clippings, but was of this this priest that discovered it holding up an armor plate that was as big as his entire torso.
Ooh.
Sorry, I was trying to read some of the comments. Creepers Cryptid and Paranormal Corner says, yeah, that's what I was thinking last time I seen something about them finding giant bones. Oh, that's a good way to cover up a Bigfoot body. Exactly. I just reported as strange bones, and it vanishes into the depths of the Smithsonian. In the case of Lovelock Cave, and let me grab that picture and bring that back up. The Lovelock Cave incident, did I not? I must have deleted it. Well, there's this one. In the Lovelock Cave incident, these bones that were found, and you can see clearly how much taller they are than a normal person, were put on a display in a museum in Nevada for years and years. People were able to come in and see it. That is until the Smithsonian found out about it and came in and said, hey, we would like to take those for study. And that museum still has the paperwork where they signed it over to the Smithsonian to get it back. And the Smithsonian says, oh, no, we never received it. It's gone. We don't have that. We have any record of that. But the museum still has the paperwork and says, yes, you did. This is where you signed for it. And there's some pretty interesting books on this subject. I've got this one, and where's the other one? This one in my Amazon cart right now. I'm getting ready to buy those tonight.
Cool.
Sorry, trying to stay caught up with the chat. So what do you guys think? I mean, we know these bones have been found.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, as long as nothing about Bigfoot has been cataloged, no DNA has ever been cataloged, no bones have ever been cataloged, the scientific community is always going to have the right to say, well, this is just unknown and you can't tie it to anything.
Right.
And so I don't think this stuff's ever going to get cataloged, and I think it's going to continue to go missing. Sorry, I know I'm stuttering.
You're fine.
But it's really sad to think about, but how can you get around that?
By not turning it over to the Smithsonian.
Well,
unless they come at you with a court order, tell them to piss off.
But how can you get around things not being cataloged? I mean, in order to prove it, it has to be cataloged. In order to get it cataloged, you're going to have to turn it over to somebody. And whenever you do that, it's going to, I mean, it's a catch-22 situation. You can't win. Yeah.
And the problem with that is the only people who are officially recognized to catalog things like that are government facilities like the Smithsonian.
In Area 51.
Mm-hmm. And they control what information they release. Now, however, I will share the link to this in the chat. I will put this up right now. This goes out. You guys can check it out. You can click on the link and read it for yourself. But in 1947, the FBI had published a document confirming the existence of giant human-like aliens in a declassified report. The report was made available for the public, but it was heavily redacted. And you can actually hunt this report up. It's referred to as Memorandum 6751. There are several YouTube videos on it. I'm in the process of looking for the actual full document itself. I've only found pieces of it, but I do want to find this entire document, and you can follow that link and check that out. But that is an FBI declassified report confirming the existence of giant human-like aliens.
I just want to make something clear on that, though, DA. It was not written by the FBI.
No, it was written by a scientist that worked for them.
Right. And I gave it to them. And I don't understand why they redacted it so much. because I mean, I guess they're trying to prepare everybody, by letting these documents out. And like I've said in previous shows on other YouTube channels, I think within the next 3 years, they're going to come out with a lot more. And they're just prepping us a little bit at a time.
Oh, I agree. A friend of mine just sent me a message on Facebook with a newspaper clipping that was taken in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin in 1912 of giant bones that were found there. So, it's more than I was able to show, because I pretty much filled up my window for having pictures. But it's, there's just so much out there on these giant bones. And again, I know I've kind of covered this before, but what really freaks me out is when you look at where the clusters of these giant bones have been found, it so strikingly resembles the David Paulides missing 411 map and the cave systems of the United States. To me, that's just mind blowing. That we're finding these giant skeletons in and around these major cave systems that we also suspect that Bigfoot and other cryptids are using to not only hide, but to travel great distances,
Right.
Which also kind of segues into the show that we're going to be having on Saturday night about the Hollow Earth theory. I'm going to delve more into that at that time, but there's a lot of information out there that lends a lot of credence to that. And I don't necessarily believe that the earth is hollow and there's another sun inside of it, but there are vast networks of caverns that we've never tapped. And that very well could be the hollow earth they're talking about.
Yeah, that overlap of those two maps you just put up tells you two things. People have gone missing in that area, so it could be due to cryptid activity. And number two, they found large bones in that area. So, it's possible that they did have reported cryptids that could be very, very real. And I noticed that the large concentration on that map, really large concentration in the Kentucky and Tennessee area. So, I mean, what's over there, DA?
Mammoth Cave and LBL.
Tunnels, caves. I mean,
Neoma Finn.
You're the reason so many people go missing in that area.
I am. I admit
You're the most prolific serial killer in history, Naomi.
Yes, and I've been around for thousands of years. Can you tell?
She makes a lot of cakes and candies, so kids don't come near her.
Neoma Finn is actually synonymous with Baba Yaga.
There you go. You bet I am. I fly around in a teacup and everything.
And how are your Sasquatch friends these days? Have they been visiting?
They've been pretty quiet. I haven't heard from them in a while.
Darn.
Yeah. You know what I was just thinking about?
What's that?
Cheesecake.
Ah,
Well, there's never a bad time for
just
cheesecake.
finished one 2 days ago.
Oh,
Very cheesecake.
yeah. I guess it was Nick that made me think of cheesecake when he was talking about it
I
that one
wish I
time.
could send you the one that I make. I swear, I wish I could, but it would get destroyed in the mail.
Mhm.
There's no way it could go there. So I'll have to come there and actually bake it right there.
Sounds good to me. I always like a
This
good
thing
cheesecake.
weighs close to 7 pounds, DA. It's
Dang.
spring form and it's about 4 inches high, and
Oh.
it's delicious.
Folks, if you are new to the channel or you're just joining us for the first time tonight, hit that like and subscribe button on the channel. Share the video with your friends and let people know about the content we're having on the channel. It really does help the channel grow. And we have just added something new to the channel. There are now is it a subscription button?
It's you become a member, join the channel.
Join the channel. You can become a member. There are 2 levels. One gets you access to badges and emojis, and higher access higher one will get you access to members only videos as they become available. I'm planning on shooting a bunch of those videos in the very near future. Now that we've got our vehicle situation straightened out, I'm mobile again. I'm going to be shooting a lot more videos. Jesse Van Rensselaer says, DA, I know one of the missing 411 theories is cryptid related. Do you guys think they could have been using the cave systems now if the giants used them in the past? Hence the correlations. Yeah, that's exactly what we think. In fact, I think that cryptids have been using those caves for a very long time. And it's when you look at the, let me bring that graphic right back up again. When you look at the missing 411 clusters, they correspond to these caves so perfectly. And one thing I also found is they also correspond to junctions of major fault lines. And those caves being close to major fault lines would give those caves the ability to go much deeper than we expect. We have barely scratched the surface of some of these caves. Let me get back to the I know I'm missing some questions.
It's cheesecake making people.
Sal Passive says my wife is making a cheesecake tomorrow. Awesome.
How far are you from me, Sal? No, I actually want Nick's cheesecake because he's made me want that cheesecake.
Well,
it does sound pretty good.
We will stop in on you when we go up to LBL. I think you got something going in March.
Yeah, we're there's a big gathering going to be at one of the campgrounds. I don't have all the information yet, but the guys from Bigfoot Odyssey are going to be there. Cameron Buckner from Dixie Cryptid is going to be there.
Sawdust Beast
to be a lot of them there. And my plan is if everything goes well, then I will be there as well. So hopefully that'll be a meeting of the minds, as it were.
I'm definitely going to be there.
That would be. I can't wait to do that. William Bedard says, wasn't Bigfoot in the Wyoming or another state's natural fauna book some years back? Yeah, I seem to remember reading something about that. But they're also showing up in like the Ohio Department of Natural Resources video series. They're showing up on signs in the Pacific Northwest, warning people about possible Sasquatch sightings in those areas. It's becoming more and more mainstream, little by little. It's not something the government has done all at once. It's just like with the UFO information, how they're slowly releasing cockpit footage. Blah, 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 blah. Let me rewind that. Blah, 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 blah.
I should have told you that I'm contagious.
Over the air contagions.
The government is releasing cockpit footage from fighter jets. They're releasing more and more information about the existence of aliens. I think they're doing the same thing with Bigfoot and other cryptids, but they're doing it very slowly. Like, for example, laws were just recently changed for hunting laws identifying near human species. Let that sink in. That's a federal law that was recently changed to include near human species. That's kind of terrifying.
That is.
What are they hinting at? What would they be calling near human species? Because we know it's not deer. It's not a mountain lion.
Maybe they're suggesting a little too much slap and tickle at the zoo.
It's kind of like that episode of Futurama. Is that a hobbit? No, it's a hobo and a rabbit, but they're making a hobbit.
Oh, that's too funny.
Creeper Scripted says, David looked into the area in Victoria, Australia about these missing persons a few months ago. Anyway, end of last year, there was an earthquake in that area, and when you looked on the map, it was the same sections. Yeah, that fits. Cave systems and fault lines, man. Ellen Harrington says, I wonder what would happen when different cryptid varieties have to share space of the cave system, like Bigfoot going north and Dogman going south. Again, the Choctaw talked about a war fought between Bigfoot and Dogman. I think they're competitors for food sources. And I think if they run into each other in groups, they're going to fight. But, it's kind of like the two biggest kids on the block. Eventually they're going to get into it.
Well, everything I've heard and all the research I've done and the other cryptozoologists I've spoken to, LBL, it's part Tennessee, part Kentucky. And I believe from all the stuff that I've put together that the Tennessee section is Sasquatch and most of the Kentucky section is Dogman. So, I mean, yeah, they don't play well together, and I think they do keep their boundaries.
Naomi, your possible dogman sighting was closer to the southern end, wasn't it?
It was actually, yeah, it was south of, I don't know what the name of the road is that the two bridges there, and pretty much that kind of divides it. And it was south of that dividing line. It was, I was still up in Kentucky, but just barely. So definitely in Bigfoot territory, but I don't think what I saw was, God help me, I don't know what I saw. I really don't. I don't want to call it anything because I'm sorry. I just can't.
Well, you know, when you see something like that, it's hard to come to grips with what you saw.
Yeah.
It really is.
Tell folks what you had in your backyard, Naomi.
I have something eating my bird feeders in my backyard. Slapping the side of my house at night. My husband retired last week, so I'm hoping I never have another house slap again. But it's been a few months since I've heard one.
It's just telling you to refill the feeders. Like, hey, it's empty.
Yeah.
Get out here.
You're lucky you see a big face on your second floor bedroom window.
Yeah, you'll definitely be confirming a race of giants when it's looking in your second story
feeder
window.
Right here, lady. Come on, feeder.
It's like holding up the feeder and pointing at it.
Empty. Gonna stay empty. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I ain't coming out there. Creeper Scripted and Paranormal Corner says, and then I looked at the map of Yahweh sightings, and there were sightings all through the same area. That's not uncommon, even here in the States. Mark Napier says, there are caves all over Kentucky and our farms that are entrances that have been blown up to keep farmers and farmers' kids out of. That happens here in Missouri too. Some like the cave that I mentioned that I'd been in called Smittle Cave, where the Missouri Department of Conservation kicked this family off their land and then put huge iron like bars over the entrance of this cave, so people couldn't get in there. But if you look at the way it's built, it looks more like it's designed to keep something in than to keep something out. I'd have to find my Smittle Cave pictures, but you know, if anybody's ever in the Missouri area and wants to see it, I can drive straight to it. Ellen Harrington says, "What, shooting near human species is okay?" Yeah, they're wording that into hunting bills, which to me just sounds really, really bizarre. Like they're preparing to cover the instance of somebody, deer hunting shoots one of these things. Yeah, I personally, I would never hunt one, but I think they're setting it up for that.
My personal belief is every hunter that's ever disappeared has shot one.
Very likely.
That's what happens. Yeah. Go ahead, pull that trigger.
Yeah, it's like
see
like
how
a
that works
mosquito
out
bite.
for you.
The only thing you really did was get its undivided attention.
Exactly.
Northwoods Cryptid says, if it wasn't for gun camera footage, the UFO sightings could be dismissed as typical fighter pilots BS. Yeah, the gun cameras are what they're releasing, that cockpit footage. Gravity Cheeseburger says, I like the way Naomi thinks. Cheesecake. Josh Jones says, LOL, it's almost like the topic of Bigfoot migrating through Dogman territory could be a good plot point for something. Yeah, kind of like that video game you guys are working on.
Yeah.
Ellen Harrington says, do you think Bigfoot and Dogman are equals? One-on-one, I would say Bigfoot would win that fight. I don't really think that they're on equal footing, but the fact of the matter is Bigfoot are often seen alone and Dogmen travel in packs. So I would say if a Bigfoot ran into a pack of Dogmen, it's over for old Bigfoot. But force on force, equal numbers, I think the fight's going to go to Bigfoot.
Yeah, plus Bigfoot likes to pick up big pieces of logs and use it as a weapon.
Mm-hmm. Or if it gets a hold of a Dogman by the ankles and plays put out the Dogman, much like the Hulk did to Loki into the Avengers.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom.
I mean, I'm not just making a funny
puny humans, puny gods. That's what
puny
my favorite.
Dogman.
Bigfoot likes to pick up, big pieces of lumber and, throw them at people and stuff, and they use it all the time.
Here's the thing that I think is important to keep in mind, though, and that is that it doesn't matter whether or not they're equal. They're still bigger and stronger than we are. So what difference does it make? Just saying.
I'm trying to find the answer to Tanya Willis's question real quick. That's Klamath Falls, Oregon. I know I've got the one from here in Missouri. Yeah, it was near Moberly, Missouri. I don't know the name of the cave, but the system where they found giant bones was near Moberly, Missouri.
Okay, so then anyway,
Bigfoot, William Bedard says Bigfoot and the thylacine do exist, just not good for the logging industry. Yeah, you're absolutely correct about that. But, you know, we hear a lot of stories from loggers that have had, I would say, less than sterling encounters with Bigfoot. Bigfoot doesn't seem to be a fan of loggers. They've come back to camp and found huge pieces of equipment flipped. In one story I read, loggers came back and found 55-gallon drums of diesel fuel that they were going to use for their equipment had been thrown down the side of a mountain. That takes some force to pick up a 55-gallon drum full of fuel. I don't know if any of you guys have ever tried to pick up a 55-gallon drum full of anything.
No.
It ain't. We're talking hundreds of pounds.
We couldn't do it.
you know, if you've been watching the Alaskan Killer Bigfoot series, and listen to what Ron Moorhead had to say about Bigfoot, they gain their energy from trees. Here's his book that I picked up at the Bigfoot conference last year. I know. I gotta do. I know. As soon as I saw that, I was like, "Son of a gun, I gotta do that." Isn't it funny? Oh, maybe I am now.
Quantum
good.
Bigfoot.
I don't know.
Yeah, Ron talked about that book when he was on the show.
And he talks about the fact that Bigfoot get their energy from trees. So if we come along and cut down their energy, I could see where they wouldn't like our loggers.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
And even if you don't look at it kind of in a metaphysical plane, the way Ron is, if you just look at it as it being a pure animal, it's still not going to like its habitat being disrupted and cut down. This is where it'd be like if somebody walked into your living room and started taking a fire axe to your couch. You're probably not going to react well. Like, hey, asshole, what are you doing? That's my couch.
I was watching the Discovery Channel program about 6 months ago. This was back in 2021. And it was in right near the USA border in Canada where they were doing logging. And the cameraman doing a documentary there, and out of the forest area comes flying a large tree about 20 some odd inches around, approximately 15 feet long, and it came flying through the air in their direction. Now, no human can do that. This was coming out of the forest. Now, they tried to recreate that using Hollywood FX people, and the machine that they got to do it couldn't even replicate that. DA, I'm telling you.
Did you see that video that Thinker Thunker had of that Bigfoot chucking that tree?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
that was a good sized tree, and it flew probably 50 yards.
Exactly, and they replicate that.
Folks.
And nothing that the FX guys had could actually do something like that. They're saying, God, the amount of power that would have, taken just to do something was phenomenal. So where did the tree come from?
Exactly.
Did this happen to fall down through the air? No.
Tanya Willis says exactly if their acknowledged environmental laws would most likely change for inhabited areas that would seriously impact logging and construction businesses at the very least. Then, of course, there'd be, are these sentient species, and do they deserve equal rights to the rest of us, which would put a screeching halt to anything we did in their environment. Josh says, aren't there stories of Native Americans saying they were protectors of the forest, at least up in the Northwest? Yeah, there's a lot of those. I've got another super chat from Chip Bowner. Says, appeal to resources. Let's get nuclear DNA. I agree. I got a comment about my coming into your living room. Chris Miller says, if somebody did that to my couch, I'd probably react with a firearm. Exactly. When we go into the woods and start chopping down trees, it's the equivalent of someone walking into your living room and smashing up your furniture. I mean, we're going into their home and tearing things down.
Yep, I agree. If somebody came into my house and did that to my couch, I'd be grateful. I want a new couch.
Northwoods Cryptid says, I know jet fuel is about 6 pounds to a gallon. Water's 7.5 pounds to the gallon.
Milk is 8 pounds to the gallon.
So you put, take that times 55 gallons plus, about 50 pounds for the weight of the drum itself. You're talking considerable amount of weight that just got chucked down the side of a mountain.
I know I can't throw that much.
No, it's when I used to work for a certain factory here in town, I won't name who it is. Well, part of our job was we'd have to roll those 55-gallon drums over to a machine and then tap them. And they were full of adhesives, and those things were heavy, but you get pretty good at moving them over time. Probably part of why my back is bad these days.
Give it a good push and let somebody else stop it.
No, they were on the end. They weren't like on the round side. You kind of just leaned it a little bit and rolled them.
Put it on the round side, give it a good push, and let someone else stop it.
Exactly.
I see. This is why I'm not allowed to work in factories and warehouses. And I have really great ideas, but nobody wants to follow through on them.
Josh Jones says, 72 people watching, only 32 likes. Hit the like button, folks. Are you not enjoying the show? Yeah, if you're enjoying the show, folks, hit that like and subscribe button. I did not mean to click on Nightbot.
Derek Buckles says 33 now. There you go.
Awesome. Thank you, folks. I'm refreshing the YouTube page so I can take a look at it. Hey, 37. We're climbing.
Ooh. Yay. Sorry, guys. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I forgot.
Sorry, I had to grab a cough drop. I was starting to cough quite a bit.
What program X-Men? I mean, like with Xavier and Wolverine,
Angel and Beast and all that. No, I think that was due to COVID.
Oh.
They had problems in the studio.
I see. Yeah, a lot of shows that I really love have not made it to didn't make it through the plague.
Yeah, the Black Plague of the 21st century.
Yeah. Anyway, so there was something I keep thinking I'm gonna say, and then when I open my mouth, it falls out, but it doesn't speak. Josh, I am totally entertained. I am so entertained, I can't stand it.
Well, DA, from a lot of the research I've done in the Kentucky area, you were talking about caves before that they put giant bars in front of.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of research I've done in the Kentucky area in reference to dogmen, the cave system over there, I can reference in my notes. Well, let me see. 9 different cave systems when I was out there, and I was speaking to one of the guys who worked for the forest industry out there. They did not put bars up. What they did was they went in 20 feet with explosives, and they collapsed the caves. They did not want anyone going into those 9 caves. And after they collapsed them, what they did was they brought in cement trucks and they poured the cement there. They had forms, pouring the cement right in front. And if I ever go out there again, I want to get pictures of that this time around. It's instead of just written reports and speaking to one fellow. But why would they close up these 9 caves. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, why would they go to such great lengths to block it off?
Exactly. But I mean, they went in 20 feet and explosives to drop. And you could see part of the hillside that collapsed in on it also. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds of rock and earth coming down. Then they poured forms and made sure that nobody else went in through there. Now, my question is, and I couldn't find this out from the fellow who worked for the forest industry there, I wanted to know why they were originally, where did they come from? Why were these caves dug? Did humans dig them? And that he either couldn't or wouldn't answer. So that's kind of piqued my interest. And the next time I go out there, I'm going to have to go and see if I can do any freedom of information or possibly get something from a library about that area.
It would seem to me like they had something to hide. And they went to that length to seal off the cave. They didn't want anybody in there.
No.
That goes beyond just saying, oh, it's for public safety. We don't want anybody's kids getting there and getting lost.
Yeah.
That is hugely out of the way, beyond of anything, just keeping somebody from wandering into the cave.
Exactly. I mean, putting bars up, where'd you say they were? In Missouri? I mean, that's one thing, but my God, they're collapsing these places. There must be a big reason for that. I'd like to find out. And my next trip out that way, which is going to be this year, I'm going to definitely check into it.
Well, that land I was talking about, the Smittle family, the Missouri Department of Conservation claimed it was because of endangered brown bats. Now, okay, fine. If there's an endangered species, you put up the bars or whatever to keep people from going in the cave. But why take the land away from the family? Why did they, and this was a farm, it was hundreds of acres of land. Why did they seize the whole land, the whole piece of land, and not just seal off the cave entrance?
Exactly. And I mean, you know, if you've taken their land and you made them move off and probably took down their house and everything, but I mean, still, what are they going to do? Fence in hundreds of acres?
Right.
And, put up signs, no entry?
Well, if you look on the Missouri Department of Corrections, Missouri Department of Conservation's website, totally different entities there. The Missouri Department of Conservation's website, and if you look up Smittle Cave, the story that they're putting out is that the Smittle family just donated the land, and that's bullshit, because I know for a fact it was taken from them.
You see the comment by Corey Cole? In reference to that,
I just watched the Thinker Thunker video on the Sasquatch throwing the tree. Wow, the speed of his throwing arm is unreal. Not to mention the fact that you can see dirt trailing from the root of that tree.
Yeah. That video is awesome if you haven't seen it. Derek Buckle says, what has been the latest finding of giant bones here in the U.S.? The most recent one I heard about was in Minnesota, and I want to say it was about 10 years ago.
Oh. All right.
But another really interesting thing that they found in Minnesota and ironically in Oklahoma is they have in both those locations, they found Viking runestones that date to about 700 years before Columbus ever set foot on the North American continent.
I know
the one in Heavener, Oklahoma dates to the 8th century.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing that they found Viking artifacts there. Absolutely crazy.
Tina Satomi says, my mom grew up in the hills of Kentucky. She said you had to be careful of hidden holes. It would be really deep, and when they dropped rocks into them. Yeah, in Missouri, you got to be watchful of stuff like that too, because it is very easy to run up on a sinkhole. In fact, there's one just down the block from my house. Sinkholes are very well. There was one that swallowed a house in Nixa, Missouri, just a few years ago. People noticed that the yard next to their house was like sinking in, and then it collapsed, and then it started taking part of their garage. So, city of Nixa evacuated them from the house, and it wasn't long before the rest of the house joined it. They lost an entire house to a sinkhole. Ellen Harrington says, can someone put the link to the video in the chat? If you guys will cover for me for just a second, I'll get it off Thinker Thunkers.
Josh is actually looking it up right now. Josh said he'd see if he could find it.
Okay, Josh, I'll let you do it then.
Mark Napier says he used to hide out in a cave when he and his friends skipped school, and it was really close to the school. Good thing the cave didn't find you guys.
Yeah.
Up in the post area, there's a lot of money to have stashed and covered with railroad bars. What?
And Northwoods Cryptid says if someone was hit by a baseball pitch by a Bigfoot, it would be lethal. Yeah, if they could teach them to throw baseballs, the MLB would be snatching them up.
Really? You'll notice a lot of the pitchers these days, they're 6'5", 6'7", because the bigger the person, the longer the arm and the faster
more velocity.
The velocity just goes up.
Louis Noriega corrected it. He says up in the Barstow area, there's a lot of mine entrances that have been covered up with railroad bars.
Josh sent you that link. He couldn't post it.
Oh, okay. Let me go over there. Okie doke. Copy link address. There we go. Oh, that's a long link.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's interesting. That is a really long link.
All right, I found a much shorter one. So ignore the first one. The second link is the link to the video. I shouldn't have just copied it out of the chat window. I clicked on it and then copied it. But the video is pretty awesome. I mean, you can see it clearly throwing a tree like a javelin, and it just goes flying.
Really?
Josh didn't send the long one.
I don't want to share that without permission. So I'm not sure if I'm allowed by Facebook. I'm not Facebook, by YouTube YouTube standards to share another YouTube video without permission. I know they've changed the standards on that here recently. YouTube's always coming up with new rules we have to follow.
Yeah. They like to mix it up a little.
Oh, yeah. Just keep us guessing.
Yep. Josh says you are. Josh, the first link that you posted was a Facebook link. I don't know if you noticed that. Began with www.facebook.
Bill Sloan says, were there any helicopters in the area when Bigfoot threw the tree? Not as far as I know. Kevin Carter says, worst we have in Louisiana is waking up to gators in our yard. Oh, okay. Josh says there's no issue sharing non-copyrighted content, music, movies, etc. Okay, well, then I have got the image up, and I will share the screen. Just hoping we don't get demonetized.
What are we watching?
The Thinker Thunker video.
Oh.
There's their share screen. I had to find it. And go back to the beginning of the video. There we go. Okay. You can see it chucking that tree.
That's just crazy.
Well, whatever that is, you can see its arm chucking that tree.
I like the way the tree comes right back to it like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a yo-yo tree.
Yeah.
Look
how far that thing flew.
Yeah.
Holy moly. I wonder if they ever found the exact tree and weighed it.
I wonder if they found that Sasquatch and put him on the Olympic javelin throw.
No kidding.
Damn.
Well, that's the Sasquatch throwing a tree video. If you guys go onto the History Channel's YouTube page, or you have the History Channel, if you any streaming services, even YouTube, if you stream through YouTube, Amazon Prime, Netflix, you can look up some of these documentaries about these giant bones, and there are a lot of them. I mean, it's not just like one or two. There are lots of documentaries on giant bones being discovered all over the world, and it always astounds me that anytime the Smithsonian gets involved, they just vanish. And I don't get that. I don't understand. Well, number one, I don't understand why they're hiding it. But number two, why do they keep giving them to him?
I don't think
it's
people
like
know.
Charlie Brown and Lucy.
Yeah, she keeps yanking that football. Eventually, you're going to quit trying to kick the football.
Well, I don't think people actually know that they're not going to do anything with it, and they're never going to get it back, and they're going to deny ever receiving it.
Mm-hmm. Which happened in the case with the Lovelock Cave. The museum that had them on display loaned them to the Smithsonian, and they disappeared. And if you try to get anything out of the Smithsonian, they're like, we have no record of that. Which just drives me buggy. I hate that. It's like when you present somebody with a mountain of information and they just go, nah, I still don't believe it.
You can lead a horse to water.
Good point.
Oh, I wish I could remember Dorothy Parker's statement on that. It's such a great quote, and I can't remember it.
Northwoods Cryptid says, a couple of days ago, I heard a helicopter and thought at first it was one arriving at the hospital a few blocks away, but it turned out to be a Blackhawk. Now we've got the Avcrad right here outside of Springfield, so I hear Blackhawks and other military choppers all the time. Tanya Willis says, have there been any forensic reconstructions of the giant skulls as is done on human skulls to aid in identification? If there are, they've never been made public as far as I'm aware. In the case of like the Lovelock Cave, there is pretty good photographic evidence like this. I think you can kind of look at it and see that even though it's badly desiccated, that the face doesn't look all that human.
No, not at all.
In fact, if you look at that, it almost looks like there are ear flaps hanging off the side. Does that look like it has a pronounced snout to you guys? Like even like a little one?
It does look like a little one. Yeah.
And if you look on the right side of the image, would be the creature's left. It almost looks like an ear hanging off.
Mm.
Weird.
You know what? Part of that Area 51 mystique, the Smithsonian Institute, I mean, this is a little history background. In 1846, the government established through an act of Congress that the Smithsonian would be a independent federal trust. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, but who runs it? It's governed by a board of regents. And it's the vice president, the chief justice, 3 members of Senate, 3 members of the House of Representatives, and 9 citizen members. So we're talking about, it's a government agency. Mm-hmm. It's literally a government agency. And if they don't want you to know something and they want to hide something, well, they're darn well going to do it. DA, have you ever been there? Are you, Nayama?
To the Smithsonian? I have never been to Washington, D.C.
Oh, I've been there, and I got to tell you, you could be there for 24 hours a day for a year and not see everything. It is that big.
My second magazine subscription ever was the Smithsonian Magazine, and I read it religiously, but I have never also been there. I will say my first subscription ever was Mad Magazine, so I had an eclectic taste.
I had subscriptions to Mad and Cracked.
Did you? I bought Cracked at the store, but I never had a subscription to it. But I did have a subscriptions.
They have a really wonderful zoo over there. I did 2 weeks of an internship there, And I'm going to tell you, that place is marvelous. That is some place to see. So you guys got to, take a little trip over to Washington, D.C. sometime. And
I would love to see the stuff they're not displaying.
oh,
Yeah, I'd like to go through the back rooms, definitely.
they have
When I was with the Youth Conservation Corps as a teenager, I found it interesting that the first year you have to do a state park in order to be eligible to do the national park the following year.
Mm-hmm.
And the second year, I wound up, it's a long story, I didn't get to do either, but the two parks that I had to choose from were the Great Smoky Mountain and Rocky Mountain National. But that was really cool. Have I taken acid?
What?
Because whoa, that's just really cool. Nick is just doing all kinds of fun things there.
Nick's changing colors.
I'm trying to remember, were there mushrooms on my pizza tonight? Anyway,
before.
But I was really fascinated to learn that the Smithsonian was one of the parks that you could intern at.
So the Smithsonian is covered under the national parks?
I don't know. I just remember that was a place that you could intern at the following year. Now
that would explain why a lot of these remains go there.
Yeah, I do remember that. So I thought that was kind of interesting that I could have picked. I didn't. The two I picked were Smoky Mountain and Rocky Mountain. But I mean, there were a lot of places that were government entities that you could intern at following that first year. And one of them just happened to be the Smithsonian. And that what piqued my interest there was the fact that at that point, I'd probably had my subscription for 2 or 3 years to that magazine. To their magazine.
It'd be fun to work in a park.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. A lot of hard work, but the cool thing is it gets you college credit at some point.
Nick, Tanya Willis says you must have your PRT light on. Tanya Willis says I did too. Mad was more political and Cracked was just wonderfully goofy. Oh, I got to get a drink of water. I apologize, folks. Still fighting off a cold.
My third subscription was to National Geographic, and my fourth was to 17 magazine.
Well, I never had a subscription to that. I still have a subscription to Missouri Conservationist.
I don't have any subscriptions right now. I wish I could subscribe to Fortean, but I can't.
I guess we're losing Josh. Good night, Josh.
Good night, Josh.
Appreciate you being on, man.
See ya.
You the best.
Josh is awesome.
Yes. Absolutely awesome. I think I may have to join Josh. I'm sitting here rocking and I really thought for a moment that Nick was Satan and
Nick, you've been accused of worse. Come on now.
And he was revealing the gates of hell behind him for a second there. When a person's heavily medicated, you shouldn't do things without warning them.
Tony Willis asks, does anybody remember Omni magazine? Yeah, really? I used to read that all the time, too. I don't think I ever had a subscription to it, but I remember reading it every chance I got.
But like Naomi, I wanted to get Fortean magazine, and they're just cost prohibitive. My God.
Yeah, I couldn't even get the digital one to work for me, even if I wanted to spend the money on it. And it just really broke me. I mean, it tore me up, man.
I really wanted to buy the hard copy, but I mean, at about $100 a shot, I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry.
A copy per issue?
It's pretty bad.
Remember, it's published across the pond.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And right now you can't get it at all because of the plague. So I think that's why. I don't know. But I was really frustrated because I really want that magazine and I can't get it.
I have a very, very, very good friend, and she's also an admin on my Quad Coalition of Sciences. I'm going to see if she can pick one up at one of the local stores and mail it to me.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I'd rather pay $35 than than 100.
See, that's the newsletter I was trying to click into, and I couldn't even get into the newsletter. I mean, I just couldn't get into it, period.
Oh, I will try later. That would be a good one to have.
Absolutely. But anyway, good night, everybody who's saying good night to me, and I love you all too. Good night, Lanita. And yeah, my brain just went dead. I'm seeing names and I can't pronounce them. Sal, yeah, Candy, Meg, and Nick. It was really great seeing you. Haven't got to hang out with you in a long time.
In here, it was great, and like I said, when we were in that area, I got to stop in. I will show you how to make my world famous cheesecake.
I will be happy to have you do that, and I will eat all 7 pounds of it.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's 2,700 calories a slice. It is delicious, though. Totally different than anyone you ever had.
Derek, the quote is, "You can lead a whore to culture, but you can't make her think." Is that the one that you found? I love Dorothy Parker. She's my absolute favorite. My favorite poem of all time is the Dorothy Parker poem. And I will leave you with this. If I don't drive about the park, I'm pretty sure to make my mark. If I'm in bed each night by 10, I might get back my looks again. If I refrain from fun and such, I just may amount to much, but I shall stay the way I am because I do not give a damn. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Naomi. Thank you for being here. Get feeling better.
I will. Thanks.
Corey Cole says, have any of you guys ever heard or read a story involving General Magnus Maximus and the Roman army's encounter with the large hairy giants? Yeah, and some of the giant bones that were found were found by the Roman army. One of the accounts that I'd read, they found giant boat remains near Carthage. But I've heard somewhat about the Roman army's encounter with large hairy giants. To me, it's very much like the old Beowulf story. They talk about the Vikings encountering these hairy giants, and I think they were a lot more common than we know. If we were able to find like old archives from the Roman army, or even like Charlemagne or anything like that, if we were to actually read the day-to-day logs of their militaries, I bet these things were encountered a lot more than we know.
I'm sorry, I was just typing to my buddy over there across the pond, asking if she would check newspaper stores or any stores that sell magazines for the 14 magazine. I would love to get my hands on at least one.
I'm going to see if I can get subscribed to their newsletter.
There's nothing like paper, though, in your hand. I'll tell you.
True. Derek Buckle says, DA, I saw a story from the World News Report stating that Supreme Court ruled Smithsonian had to turn over classified documents related to giant bones. Not sure on authenticity. I would definitely like to find that. I'm going to do some digging tonight to see if I can dig it up. The only thing I can find about the Smithsonian admitted that they had giant bones at one point, but then said that they were destroyed, which it's like people buying historical artifacts and destroying them because they disagree. It disagrees with their personal point of view, and you hear stories about that, and it generally involves some religion or another that the historical artifact disagrees with their worldview, so they destroy it. And I think that's just horrible, because history is there, for us to understand and learn from. History is not meant to fit anybody's agenda. History is meant to teach us about our past.
Unfortunately, people like to destroy history because they think, well, if we destroy it, then it never happened.
Right. It still happened.
It's like me slapping somebody in the face and then moving to another state and saying, well, it never happened. I never slapped you. I mean, seriously, I know that's a weird, try to comparison, but it's having said that, The Smithsonian destroyed bones from a giant. It's totally ludicrous. I would think that they would crate it up and send it out to Area 51 and store it, in a warehouse someplace.
Yeah.
I mean, that would make more sense than to totally destroy it. Keep it for a time when they can actually come out with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of the natural history of this planet, and to claim it doesn't exist is just a disservice to everything, because who knows what secrets it could teach us, what we could learn from antiquity. I mean, there's all kinds of stories about civilizations that allegedly existed well before the modern one. When talking older than ancient Egypt, those could have been, the ancient Atlantis. It could have been what the Anunnaki. There are lots of possible explanations on what previous civilizations could be, but when they bury any accounts and bury any information, we may never know, and that's kind of a disservice to all of us.
I'm not one for conspiracy theories, but it sort of brings to mind, like, what else are they really hiding out there? You see a show on something, and suddenly you never can find that show again. Like I'm talking about on Discovery Channel or History Channel or something like that. And then when you go back to find it, like a show on Atlantis and what they did find in that area that they thought it was in.
Right.
I mean, why are they hiding it? Why? There's just
exactly
no answers to that question.
Corey Cole says, I've heard that at one point in time they had the bones on display, but someone decided to get rid of them. That wouldn't shock me. I mean, we know that there's museums that have giant bones on display now. One of the museums in Switzerland has one of the skeletons found in Ecuador, and it measured at 7 meters, or about 25 feet. Tina Satomi says, idle speculation, when Sasquatch goes through a portal, does he change phase into a different shape form? I don't have the information to answer you on that. I mean, it could become pure energy. It could just simply shift into another state of being. I don't know.
There's a lot of speculation on that, DA.
Right.
Dogman
and again, I'm not just going to discount anybody else's research or accounts, but I still personally lean towards Sasquatch being a physical creature. Right. There's no other animal in the animal kingdom that goes through portals or teleports or cloaks. So to ascribe these to Bigfoot is almost like we're trying to use a mystery to explain a mystery. We don't know what it is, and we can't say what it can and can't do. So I can't say for sure it can't do that. But if it's a physical creature like the rest of us, then maybe we're just ascribing mysticism to what we don't understand.
Well, they could have a higher science than we have.
That's true. That's possible. I mean, I'm not going to rule out any theory on it, because everybody's theory is just as valid as mine. But what I talk about is generally my own theories, and if you agree with them, that's great. If you don't, if you got opposing theories, that's just fine too. I mean, like I've said many times, there are no experts in this field, and anybody claims that they're an expert is lying to you or selling something, because none of us know for sure.
No.
William Bedard gave us a super chat. Says government keeps us in blinders for control. That simple. I think you're probably right, sir. I wouldn't argue that point. Mark Napier says, don't worry if they have giant bones. They're somewhere trying to exploit the DNA in some way. More than likely. Anna Bone says, come on, guys, get us to 50 at least. Hit that thumbs up. Receive $1 million in Monopoly money. Corey Cole says Scott Carpenter has a really good pic of a portal opening up, and you can see a Sasquatch figure looking inside. Yeah, I'd like to see that picture. I mean, they've spotted portals opening and closing on Skinwalker Ranch. So again, I will never say, I'm not that guy that's going to say my way is the right way and all this other stuff is BS. I don't say that. I don't believe that, because none of us know. It could very well be something coming through a portal. It could be brought here by aliens. It could simply be a physical creature. We don't know for sure until we have more information. So every theory is just as valid as the others. Creepy Cryptid and Paranormal Corner says, I think they use the spicy cough lockdowns to hunt these creatures all out of national parks were locked up and no one was allowed in. Maybe. We don't, again, maybe. Tina said, homie says, speculation about something I saw as a kid over 50 years ago. If that's what you saw, I will never say you didn't see that. You saw what you saw. You experienced that. Everybody's experiences are different, but until we have 100% fact on what Bigfoot is, we can't discount anybody's theory.
Right next to Skinwalker Ranch is the Blind Frog Ranch, and they have odd things that happen there too. And I believe they reported having seen a portal open up, for about 30 seconds, and then it just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too bad they were not filming at that time, because those guys do a lot of filming there.
Mm-hmm.
Like they do on Skinwalker Ranch. Now that would be a heck of a place to go, DA.
Oh, I would love to. Getting permission to go in there is very hard, though.
Just to spend the night there, and
that would be awesome.
I got to get together with Jody. Maybe he's got a little pull, and we can get a little 3-man team to go in there. I'll have to get back to you on that this week, because I definitely think that would be something to do. Parked in a truck.
I guess he's driving a truck. Hooter Transport said, I just got parked in a truck, 5 minutes left on my logbook. Kept me entertained, drive through freezing fog. Well, man, you be safe. Those roads can get pretty treacherous. Folks, if you've got pictures you want to send to us or accounts that you've experienced, be they Bigfoot, Dogman, any kind of cryptid, UFO, supernatural, ghost, any encounter that you've had that you would like to tell us about or have us read on the air, or even if you'd like to come on the show, you can contact us by emailing me at daroberts@daroberts.net, or if you'd like to contact us directly through the mail, you can reach me at daroberts at P.O. Box 4614, Springfield, Missouri, 65808-4614. I'll leave that up for just a moment. Corey Cole says he got to pick what email address. There we go. You can send that to daroberts@daroberts.net. I will log into my email real quick so I can grab that as soon as it gets here. It'd be something really cool to show on the show. All right, my email was up, so if you get a chance to send that, that would be fantastic. I will definitely get that up there. Anna Bone says, I've got abduction stories that will freak you out. I'd love to hear them. Hooter Transport says, my grandfather had a subscription to Fate magazine. I remember that magazine. I read a few issues of that.
Tanya Willis over here is asking, have I ever seen or experienced any portals or possibilities of such? I'm going to have to say no. The thing I experienced when I had a Dogman encounter was when it walked away and was about 120 feet away from me. There was a orb of light in the sky, and that was after it walked away. So the only thing I know about the portals is what I've researched, and I've read hundreds and hundreds of different reports on portals in reference to Sasquatch and to Dogman. I've only read 2 reports on portals in reference to Mothman, and those didn't happen in West Virginia. Those happened in Chicago, Illinois. There was 2 reports there of portals in the sky where they saw a Mothman-like being disappear into an oval type portal in the sky. DA, if you would allow me a shameless plug, I just wanted to show the patch again that we had made for the North American Dogman Project canine team.
Uh-huh.
It's the newest thing that we have out for the canine team members.
Yeah, I'd like to get my hands on one of those. I collect patches.
Oh, is that what it is? We'll have to send you a bunch of different patches then that we got.
Oh yeah, I've got all kinds of patches, military, law enforcement. Yeah, I collect patches. I just think they're neat.
And as director of Region 2, that's you I'm referring to. I'm director of Region 3. We gotta get you some more of these original patches that we have.
Heck yeah. Um, this one's for you, Tanya Willis says, fascinating. Thanks, Nick. I'm only familiar with portal vortex experiences regarding paranormal activity, not cryptids.
Ah,
A lot of cryptid stories also coincide with UFO sightings. Uh, I can't 100% say there's a correlation between the two. It's possible. If aliens are coming here to study humanoid life, it's reasonable to assume they would study all humanoid life on the planet.
exactly.
And not doesn't necessarily mean that Dogman and Bigfoot were brought here by aliens, because they were here for hundreds and hundreds of years before before this continent was civilized,
Before I
colonized.
before I was into kids and such, I was studying the paranormal. And Tanya's right. There was a lot of research and a lot of reading to be done, and people talking about portals that opened up, in the paranormal world. And they're saying that demons and ghosts and other spirits come through, and ways to cut them off and everything like that. And I like to think out of the box and keep an open mind. And a lot of the research I've done, and I've read well over 1,000 different pieces of research throughout the country and throughout the world, where people have seen, had an encounter with a Bigfoot and seen it just disappear through a portal.
Mm-hmm.
Only a couple of hundred pieces of research that I've read, and I haven't experienced it. I want to make that clear. In reference to Dogman, they've seen one, and then it disappears just right in front of it, supposedly through a portal. But most of the portal things with cryptids is in reference to Sasquatch, Bigfoot.
Yeah, but most of the ones that I've heard about where UFOs were involved, or portals, were with Bigfoot.
Yeah. Let's see.
Excuse me. Oh, I got that picture from Corey Cole. I'll put that up and let you guys take a look at that. Now, just to refresh before I put that up, that was they were talking about a portal, an image of a portal. I will put that image up real quick and let you guys kind of take a look at that and judge for yourselves. I'm not entirely sure what I see. Let you guys comment and decide what you guys see for yourselves. As pixelated as it is, it's hard to identify what it is. But everybody sees something different in pictures.
Exactly. I mean, shape-wise, it looks like it could be a Sasquatch, but it's very pixelated, like you said, and that could be the leaves and the dark spots, portions of the forest in the background, just creating that image.
Yeah. What do they call that? Pareidolia?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It's hard to say with pictures, especially because with pictures you have to have an undocumented, an unaltered image to go from. And the sad thing is in this day of Photoshop, it's so easy to fake a picture. It's very hard to take any photographic evidence as evidence, because it's so easy to manipulate and alter images. But I do love seeing images that people have taken, and I'm not claiming anybody's altered their images. I'm not saying that at all. But if you want to present it as actual evidence, it's going to be very difficult unless you have somebody that can authenticate the photo and say for a fact that it hasn't been altered, because it's so easy to do these days. Corey Cole says it's a still shot from his GoPro he had mounted, pointing back behind him over his shoulder. You can definitely see there's something in it. I mean, you can see it's something. As just because of the pixelation, it's hard to say exactly what it is. Lanita's got good eyes. She says there's clearly something in the portal, but can't make out what. Yeah, it's very difficult to make that out. I'll put that back up again and let everybody have another look at it. It's pixelated and it does look like a circular pattern.
It does.
Something like it right in the middle, like almost a humanoid shape. But it's so pixelated, it's hard to say for sure.
It does look like shoulders, but
yeah.
If it was a Sasquatch, it would have been bent over, because those arms are awfully long. Looks like they're touching the ground. I mean, I'm being very discriminatory about this. Not one way or another. I'd rather, come bring out the truth. But
again, it's very, very hard to say definitively on any kind of photographic evidence, especially in one that's pixelated like that, because there's so much interpretation can be taken. One person might see one thing, one person see another. Again, I will never out and out dismiss photographic evidence, but the problem is with the advent of Photoshop, it is just so easy to manipulate an image. And sometimes your mind looks for patterns and sees things that really aren't there. So it's difficult to look at an image like that and see anything definitive. And I've looked at a lot of images, but it's rare you find one that is so clear that you can see perfect detail. I mean, some of the Todd Standing pictures. They have so much detail it calls them into question, because no one else has ever captured anything with that much detail. So, and the fact that Standing's wife is a visual effects artist also calls into question some of those pictures. And I'm not going to say that they're hoaxed. I'm not going to call anybody out on that, but you've got to take stuff like that into consideration when you look at even video images. Because it's so hard to hoax things. So easy to hoax these things, and so hard to prove them wrong.
They have this thing called I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, steganography, where you can hide a message or a picture within a picture. And I have I got three different programs that I paid for that I use when I'm examining pictures that people send me. And then I throw it up on a 65-inch screen after I've blown up the picture 70 plus times, and I use these programs to check them out. And you can actually tell, DA, using these programs, of course, if somebody has actually faked them.
Yeah.
Actually put it within a picture and, trying to create something that's not really there. So, even though they can fake them, we can actually, 99% of the time, disprove it, if they did.
That's why anytime like a Bigfoot or any cryptid video is published, I wait to see what Thinker Thunker does with it before I comment one way or the other, because that guy is a magician when it comes to digging out embedded sources. Him and MK Davis, those guys, when it comes to video analysis, if they say one way or the other, I tend to believe them because those guys are so good at it. But unfortunately, you can look at TikTok and even on YouTube and find all kinds of hoaxed videos, and it's really, really horrible that people do that crap, because when you do find something that's legit, it makes it that much harder to take it at face value because so many people have hoaxed things. And I'm not saying that image we showed earlier was hoaxed. I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form. But we've gotten so many videos that people have published that are just obvious hoaxes that it makes it hard to accept even video evidence anymore. It's got to be run through an expert before you even kind of believe it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the sad state of things. And hoaxing has done that. There's been so much hoaxing in the cryptid and the paranormal and UFO fields. There's been so much hoaxes put on by people that it's very difficult to accept video or photographic evidence at face value. And it sucks that has come to that.
Yeah, it really does hurt.
Your buddy in Australia wants to know how he can get one of your badges over there.
I just sent John a personal Facebook message and told him about that. I won't be sending this patch here. I'd be sending a regular NADP patch, which sort of looks like, where is it here? Hang on. This one here. That's the patch that yeah, there you go. The other way, DA. Turn it around.
There we go. Corey Cole says, I've got another photo of his that is caught on his shoulder-mounted GoPro of a dog man with some type of small green being sitting on its shoulder.
Wow.
I'd like to see that one too. Again, we photographic evidence we have to take with a certain amount of grains of salt until somebody has done in-depth photo analysis of it to either prove one way or the other. But I still love seeing the photos. And don't get me wrong, I love checking out the photos.
Corey, can you send that to DA and maybe we can throw it up on the screen?
I will keep an eye on my email. Oh, I think I've already got it.
Oh, nice.
Let me see if I can post that.
Juanita says, I have only one pic of a Bigfoot in the sunshine, but too far away to get a clearer features. Ah, look at this.
And when you draw that section out, you can definitely see what looks like a face. And it does look like it have pointed ears.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see anything sitting on its shoulder. It looks more like a branch.
Yeah.
But
right.
you can see a face.
Yep,
you can definitely see a face.
Boy, I would love to blow that up and put it on my 65-inch screen.
I'll send it to you, Nick.
Clean it up a little bit, too.
I'll send it to you. Jesse Van Rensselaer says, Keith and I will have to get out in the field this spring and see if we can get some photos this year. What encounters we have had have been so intense that I never thought to grab my camera. That was just like in LBL when Nick and I saw that one on the side of the road. I was so shocked by it. I had my camera in my phone. I had my phone with my camera app up in my hand and never once thought to bring it up and get pictures. I was just, there it is. And we saw it for just a few seconds. Then Nick went over and verified where the tracks were because it was deep leaf litter. And it dropped down into a ravine that was pretty steep and full of brambles and branches. And we're like, yep, not going down in there.
No, I mean, that was quite steep. And, I got to verify. I didn't get as good a close-on look, but I have excellent, superior, actually, peripheral vision. And on my right-hand side, I did see a black object that was really tall.
Yeah, it was you when you stood next to the tree. You're what, 6'2"?
What's that?
You're what, about 6'2"?
No, I wish. More like 5'10".
Okay. Well, when you stood next to the tree, where its head was clearly above yours. I mean, it was. Yeah. I would guess between 6.5 and 7 feet tall. Maybe it wasn't huge, but it was thin and fast.
From what I could tell on the branch, I mean that I only you got more of a couple second look than I did, but I would have said I saw the branch, and I would have said it was like 6.5+ feet tall. But there's no way we're going to go after that thing going downhill.
Oh God, no!
Oh, God,
that could have ended very badly. Like, well, the main thing is we probably would not have been able to get back up the way we went down. It was just too steep.
Slide.
Rockshard says, the thing I do know is that is what could be said to already be known. They use ultrasonic sound beams to stun or kill. Yeah, infrasound. They are psychic. They seem to have interest in the fate of the planet. Could be. I mean, they could be a higher intelligence. They could be more animalistic. It's hard to say, but considering that the creatures, the cynocephaly condition, have been spotted by Marco Polo, Christopher Columbus, they very well could be a higher intelligence. Jesse Van Rensler says, the last encounter we had 2 years ago, the alpha was about 30 yards away, and I was too busy yelling at him to hit the gas.
Yelling at it?
Yelling at her husband, yelling, Keith, hit the gas, get us out of here. I
She was yelling at the beast.
I agree with Tanya. I think it's leaves or a branch over its shoulder. I'll put that image back up and let everybody get another look at it. But it looks, you can see a face and you can see the ears, but the green whatever looks to me to be a branch. It doesn't look like anything in particular. It looks like a branch that it's partially behind. That's what it looks like to me. Again, I won't dispute someone else's idea. It very well could be something else, but to me it looks like the face and shoulder are concealed by the branch. Anna Bone says, I had a UFO appear 30 feet above me, and I panicked and was digging for binocs instead of a camera. I don't blame you. When you're in the heat of that moment, when you see something you are not ready to see, your thoughts of the thought of picking up a camera is generally the last thing in your mind. That fight or flight response is the first thing that kicks in, and usually it's kind of followed by a large adrenaline dump. Blues and G Music says, in my opinion, the secret to catching these Bigfoot, etc., is low tech, like the old cameras with zoom lenses, etc. The Patty film was still the best evidence, and it was really low tech. I agree. I think when you start getting more and more into electronics, you run into the chances of interference with those electronics, and that's been documented.
You have to be ready with that camera. I mean, you could be out there for hours, and you let your guard down, and suddenly something appears, and you put your camera down. That's
right.
That's where that GoPro comes in, DA. That's an excellent thing to have on your shoulder, and it's running.
I know now that we've got the new vehicle, I'm installing my dash cam on it. So when we start doing back road driving, I've got that dash cam to back me up. Roxhard says that interest could just be habitat based, or they're far more complex than that. I would say definitely something along those lines. Corey Cole says, guys, if you can see that thing on its shoulder whispering like it was controlling it.
I can't verify or deny it.
I can't say one way or the other. I mean, It could possibly be something on its shoulder, but to me, it looks more like it's hiding behind a branch. That's again my opinion. It looks like it's something like it's just a branch. I could be wrong.
I'll try to analyze it more tomorrow and blow it up to see what's going on in that picture. But
I'll send you the image here shortly, Nick.
Looks like the leaves, because there is a lot of green there.
There's definitely a lot of foliage. Roxhard says, I still would not want to get close to them because I already have, and I'm not into tempting fate. I don't blame you one bit there. Sal Paso says, I think that Bigfoot can sense new electronics, infrared, etc. I think they can see the infrared spectrum. Definitely. We know deer can.
Yeah.
A lot of animals are able to see trail cams. You can see them react to them.
And the folks out there that say, "Oh, I didn't get to my camera to take a picture." Well, if you ever been to the zoo and you've seen a bear, maybe a 7-foot bear, and how big that is, I mean, can you imagine bumping into something in the woods that, even if it was only a bear, you're gonna most likely panic. So
yeah, I would agree.
Infrared, yeah, it's the truth.
Kerry Cole says, you guys can go to Scott Carpenter's YouTube channel and find it under Dogman Creature on its shoulder, I think. I'll check that out. Blues and G Music says, Mark Zelazny's show has some pretty good stuff on it, but he's been working for around 7 years. Anna Bone says, and it looks bigger than a Sprite. Rockshard says they can use their psychic abilities to communicate, and they seem to be able to choose the time and place of contact. But that's only for certain purposes. It's different than incidental contact. I wouldn't argue that. I mean, I don't know for sure. Rockshard says, my camera was inside the house when I saw Bigfoot. It was watch or run in for it and miss it. It was a crap camera anyway. Sal says, if they can see infrared, that would explain why they avoid cameras. Yeah, a lot of times if you find a trail cam footage has anything, it's of like something hairy moving the trail cam from behind. I know trail cam footage. I've seen deer react to the camera. Like they're not afraid to go into the infrared light, but as soon as the camera reacts and takes a picture, it'll turn and look right at it.
Yeah, they look dead right. So I mean, you can see that they know what's going on.
Yeah, it's not outside the realm of possibility to think they can see infrared. That's why I think you're going to have much better look with low light cameras. There are video cameras that go down to 0 lumens, and like security cameras, and they do that without infrared. I think thermal and low light are going to be your two best shots. And thermal, the problem with thermal is it's up for interpretation what you're filming. Corey Cole says, if it's real, I think it's one of the most terrifying pics I've ever seen. I would agree. Rockshard says, I know for sure. Just a heads up. Appreciate it, sir. Derek Buckle says, wasn't Gimlin Patterson? He had the camera in a scabbard on his saddle, ready to go. That was how he caught the footage. Yeah, he had the camera primed and ready. He just grabbed and started filming. And an interview I read with Gimlin said that in the trackways, there were multiple sets of tracks, but they only filmed the one creature. Blues and G Music says several animals can see IR light, elk, flying squirrels, etc. Yeah, I've seen lots of animals react to trail cams. And for some reason, black bears like tearing them up. A lot of guys that put out trail cams have had them wrecked. I mean, absolutely wrecked by black bears.
Exactly. I have a buddy of mine who's put a trail cam up on the same tree in the same spot 3 times. Now, I don't know what happened the third time, but the first 2, they were totally trashed. I mean, off of the tree, on the ground, smashed up. And mind you, he puts them up 9 feet off the ground.
Well, black bear can climb that high, but some of the trail cam images you see, some of the trail cam images, I saw one trail cam, I had several stills, and you see the first glint of them, because they usually snap several pictures right there rapidly, and the first motion you see looks like a tree branch, and it's getting closer, and then it goes out. Bama BF says they can see UV on the lens in case if they see infrared. Yeah. That's Nightbot.
I mean, you have to remember that there's a reason that you can see eye shine on animals and you cannot on humans. And they have a little bit of a better night, seeing ability than we have. And, it's just a different chemical in there. And most likely they can see the infrared. I'm 99% sure that they can.
Oh, I agree, definitely. Rockshard says, by the way, the range on the ultrasound being produced by Bigfoot, and these 2 times I had it happen, I'd say it was in 1 to 100 feet. Will stun a person still as a statue. Autonomics running, but lights on, no one home. Yeah, even tigers do that. Tigers can stun their prey with infrasound.
Exactly.
It's not uncommon, and people react differently to being hit with infrasound. Some people get sick. Some people freeze like a statue. Some people it kicks in that fight or flight response, and they haul ass. But it affects people in different ways. And I've seen accounts where people were hit with it and they begin vomiting. I mean, it depends on the person's brain chemistry and their body chemistry, but people react differently to it.
I encourage people to go to the zoo to actually, number one, see the animals and see how big they are. And I've experienced the infrasound from a tiger. I was with a group of people and they got too close to the tiger cage. That tiger let out a deep roar and you could actually feel it go right through your chest.
Oh yeah.
So I can imagine, Sasquatch or Bigfoot using it. Also, there have been people, a lot of reports I've read, and I've spoken to one gentleman in particular, Jeremiah Fontaine, about the mind speak that they can use on you. So, there's a couple of things that these creatures can use out there, and until you experience it, and you can only read about it then.
CH says their effect on us is crazy. We aren't terrified seeing a bear in the wild, but Sasquatch flips our world upside down like it touches our soul.
I got news for you. You see a brown bear or a grizzly out there, it's going to terrify you.
Yes, it will. I know from experience.
Especially if it's coming in your direction, guys.
Yeah. Rockshard says the ultrasound is part of their language. They use ultrasonic returns on glyphs. The Sierra sounds that were recorded and analyzed by the Navy, they said that the Bigfoot language exists both above and below the capabilities of human speech. So their vocal cords are very different than ours. Rockshard says, yeah, I saw 2 women get stunned. Is the effect they want with different intensities. Lenita Bryant says, where my Bigfoot lived, there have been trail cams in the woods, never filmed them. Go figure. Corey Cole says, I heard a theory that low frequency vibration can break the plaque particles apart in your arteries and cause you to pass out. Doesn't surprise me. Again, it affects people in weird ways. Tanya Willis says, I had that experience with a lion at the zoo. Definitely felt it in my chest.
Oh, yeah.
And Rockshard says, so when we try to post cams, they smell us, they see you coming, they hear you, and they can quickly scan for changes in the local environment. Yeah, it'd be like coming home from work. One day you walk into your living room and there's a trail cam hanging in the corner. Think you're going to notice. If it's part of your environment and suddenly there's something new, I think you're definitely going to notice.
The Sasquatch is going to pick up a 12 by 12 inches round by about a 8-foot long branch and slam it into that trail cam and say, here, take that.
Yeah, I don't think it matters how well you camouflage it. I think they see the IR frequency and it just alerts them immediately.
DA, I was just reading today in a magazine, a hunting magazine, about a new trail cam that they have out that puts out no light at all.
Really?
So interested to read a little bit more about that.
Yeah, if you find that article, send me a link. I'd like to read that.
Yeah, I mean, because that was something. I can imagine how much it'll probably cost.
It'd be probably expensive. Creeper Scripted in Paranormal Corner says, when I had the bluff charge, I experienced infrasound and it affected 25 minutes on GoPro footage. Holy moly.
Oof.
Blues and G Music says, saw a show elephants can hear, feel subsonic sound up to 30 miles away. They're amazing animals. I agree.
He's right. They can.
Creeper Scripted says, with the Yowie I was talking about. Yeah, infrasound is a very real thing. I mean, we know it exists. And it's not a big stretch of the imagination to attribute it to Bigfoot type creatures. And it does affect people in very strange ways.
What's Corey saying?
He said, Corey Cole says, have you guys ever heard of a heck hunting suit that masks your body's energy, making you invisible to animals? In a demonstration, a bobcat walks almost directly up to a guy wearing the suit. Well, that would be freaking awesome. But then again, you might surprise something you don't want to surprise.
Exactly. If it catches a sniff of you, and then you might have a little problem there.
Yeah, you break a branch at the wrong time. Mark Napier says they say bears smell the plastic of trail cams. Maybe Bigfoot does too. Yeah, they're
the plastics, DA. The oil in the plastics, they can smell it. It's expensive.
Rockshard says that's why when you hear a rumor of the government hunting these things, sure you can have guys on the ground, but personally I'd want a helicopter or something better, or a sniper. As long as you're using a regular, telescopic lens, they probably wouldn't be able to sense you if you're far enough out. World Bigfoot Radio says one of my guests had one. That's awesome. I'd love to. I'd have to check that out. World Bigfoot, if you would send me the link to that show, so I know which one to watch, or just at least send me a message with the title. That's one episode I'd like to watch. Although I've watched quite a few of World Bigfoot Radio's episodes, so they're always awesome. Creepers Cryptid and Paranormal Corner says, I think they can see the IR flash from the trail cams too. I definitely think that's the case. Baki says, legit question, has anyone ever reported shooting one during a violent encounter in the junk? Because they are intelligent, would they back off of that type of threat? Never heard of anybody taking a shot at Bigfoot's nuts.
Not there, no.
Again, most everything I own, if it was a one of the big guys, 8, 9, 10 feet tall, most everything I own, I'd be afraid would just piss it off. So the only way I'm going to shoot it is if I have to. If it's charging me, and if I'm ever charged by Bigfoot and it's trying to rip my head off, you can rest assured I am going to try to shoot it in the junk. Good to see if that works. I'm going to shoot it everywhere I can, as many times as possible. World Bigfoot Radio says, Robert Boston, Bigfoot in Germany had one. Awesome. I will check that out. Corey Cole says, that would definitely run me off. Yeah, me too. Just the threat of it to be like, oh, okay, I'm done. Don't get serious here. Rockshard says, that's not all I know, but the other stuff I know is a bit more paranormal and therefore more difficult to explain. It's also not easy to understand. Well, I'd love to hear it sometime. You can contact me at daroberts@daroberts.net if you'd like to have a more lengthy conversation on that. I'd like to hear it. Creepers Cryptid and Paranormal Corner says, I wonder if they can see red light. I know when we go fox hunting, we use the red light spotlight as they can't see it.
Well, I don't know. When I go walking sometime at night, I have a red light on my head just to give me some light out there instead of having a blazing white light. And every dog or deer that I go by looks right at me.
Yeah, some animals react to it, some don't. Tanya Willis just sent me a link to the HECS stealth screen, True Camo, Wildlife and Hunting Apparel. Mm-hmm. That's pretty awesome. I might have to invest in a set of that.
Can you send me that?
I will post it in chat, and yeah, I'll send it to you too, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
I just posted the link in chat, and Nick, let me pull up your messenger.
I know for a fact that the U.S. military has been, well, over the last decade, they have stealth material that they use for their snipers.
Yeah.
And it really, really helps you blend in super well. So I don't know if that's what they're referring to.
Could be. I just sent that link to you, Nick.
Yeah, I got it. Here it is.
Tanya, I got that email. Thank you. I shared the link in the chat if everybody wants to check out that system, the HECS, the HEX site for the hunting gear. I think I maybe pick up a set of that for when I'm going out and about on investigations. It might be something good to have. I was wearing my North American Dogman Project hoodie earlier today. I wore it out in public. You get some weird looks when you wear it, though. People are like, what the hell is that? Rockshard says, has not let me down yet. I'm going to look into getting a set of that if it's at all affordable.
Oh, sure. Then you're in danger of getting shot by a hunter or snatched up by a Sasquatch or ripped apart by a dog man. Either one.
Yeah, none of those sound really fun. Rockshark says you can develop your own meta stealth nanotech through Sandia if you're a government contractor. It's called Mirage Software. Well, that's pretty interesting. I'm going to look into that. Nick, what's it like after midnight there? Going on one?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I probably ought to let you get some sleep, my man. We are well over 2 hours at this point. Josh is already gone, so I don't know that we're going to do a giveaway tonight because he always runs the Nightbot giveaway. Saturday night I'll have Josh, so we'll do a couple of giveaways on Saturday night. And we won't be doing one tonight. Don't forget, if you get a chance to go by Dark Angel Medical. Again, they have the best med kits I've ever used. You can go to darkangelmedical.com, check out all levels of kits, from first aid kits all the way up to full trauma kits. And if you use discount code Cryptid25, you get 25% off your entire order. And if you order one of the new spear kits, in the comments, put Team Odin, and you'll get one of the Team Odin rockers on the patch. Yeah, it is starting to get a little late, folks. Nick, thank you for joining, man. I appreciate you jumping in. Glad Naomi was able to join us for a little bit. I knew she wasn't feeling well earlier. She didn't think she was going to be able to make it, but she was able to come around for a little bit. Starting to get a little croupy myself. My wife and my son have been sick all week, and I think I finally succumbed and catching it myself. That's Nightbot. I clicked on the wrong one. Rock Shard says you can see the meta stealth on fighter jets on Bigfoot Colorado vids, secret base or something or another. I will definitely be checking that out. Corey Cole says also need the picture of the slap. That's awesome. Rock Shard says you can't see the jets, but you can see the contrail. That's interesting. I would definitely be looking at that. Again, folks, thank you guys for joining us. I very much appreciate it. I hope you guys have a chance to check out my books if you aren't familiar with them already. If you go to daroberts.net, you can check out all my series, the cryptid books, the zombie books, the sci-fi books. I've got 24 currently in print with a 25 almost done. In fact, I'm going to do my best to try to wrap that up tonight or tomorrow and get Lakeview 3 finished and in the can. Thank you guys so much for being part of this. Appreciate every one of you guys for joining in. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and hit that little bell icon so you get all the updates whenever we go live. And hope you guys will join us on Saturday night when we're going to be discussing and delving into the Hollow Earth theory and talking more about that. Appreciate you guys, all of you. You guys are awesome. Oh, Blues G Music says, say a prayer for my granddaughter. She's caught COVID, only 7. I hope. Told her not to be scared. I would appreciate it. I will absolutely do that, sir. We'll add her to the list. I know a few people that are dealing with that right now. Rockstar says jets are old sauce, though. The newer stuff is much faster in atmosphere. Sal, I agree with you. Blues and G will be praying. Still getting a lot of comments. Well, folks, again, thank you guys so much for joining us. Nick, thank you for jumping in tonight and helping out. I thought it's really been a pretty good show. For the most part, we stayed on topic, other than we got distracted by cheesecake, which is easy to do. I love me some cheesecake. I appreciate you guys joining us. I've said this many times. We don't have fans. We have friends, and we love hanging out with you guys, answering questions and sharing things. Oh, and don't forget, over on the Discord server, if you guys remember the Discord server, we have a thread going where you can ask questions that for us to answer on the show if you haven't had a chance to ask it in the chat. Josh Jones asked, how do you come up with topics for the show? A lot of time they come up through discussions, and sometimes they come up when I've discovered something interesting on the web or on a documentary, and then I want to talk about it. But for the most part, it just comes up through us talking about, like, hey, what do we want to do next? Or when we invite a guest on. So go by the Discord channel, check out the thread. If you've got questions you'd like us to answer on the air, we will definitely be doing that. Also, don't forget, now we have the memberships to the channel. There's a couple of levels. One, you get extra, you get icons to choose from and emojis and things like that. And the other level, you'll have access to private videos as those become available, and those will be hopefully coming around soon. I've got the new camera up and ready to roll. I've got the dash cam for the car. So I'm hoping that I'm going to be capturing some really good videos. I'm going to go back down and try to film again in Joe Bald now that the leaves are all off the trees, so I can get some images of the tree where we saw what we saw sticking out behind the tree. I also want to go back to some other areas here in Missouri, down by Roaring River State Park. There was a daytime sighting just a few weeks ago of one crossing the road. I want to go down there and check that area out. It's a beautiful area, very thickly wooded, so it'd be a great place to film. And if you guys hit that like and subscribe, and help support the channel. We really appreciate it. It does help us to be able to get out, shoot videos, and continue to bring shows like this. And we really appreciate each and every one of you guys. You guys are awesome. We love hanging out with you guys. And I've said it many times, and I'll say it again. The stories are journeys that we take together, reader and writer. And I want to thank each and every one of you for taking that journey with us. You guys are awesome. We thank you guys so much. And we will see you guys on Saturday night when we will be discussing the Hollow Earth theory. So thank you again. And we will see you guys on Saturday. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you for joining us tonight on DAX Machina. If you ever have an encounter of your own that you wish to discuss, contact us at daroberts@daroberts.net. You can remain completely anonymous if you wish. Pull your covers up tight and keep a nightlight burning bright. Oh, and did you forget to lock your doors?